What is YouTube? And today we're going to be talking about the current banner featuring Peira with her artifact Goblet of Oath. Now her banner is pretty much running because we have the epic skin for her, which looks amazing. And in this video we're just going to talk about if you guys should be pulling for her artifact and how you guys want to actually build her. So Peira, pretty strong opening unit. She's not as strong as before, but she's pretty powerful as an opener because her S2 has this buff duration decrease by 1 turn, restrict, and also cannot be buffed, so very annoying. And after that you can actually use your S3 with an extra turn. And your S3 gives everyone an attack buff, and Peira will also get a stealth, barrier, and also escort, which is the buff that SCRL has, which will make your team take a lot less damage. And this barrier is super huge. Even though it says it scales with her level, the barrier is pretty thick and it will protect the Peira from taking any damage, and it'll just soak the damage that your team takes into that barrier with this escort buff. And also with the stealth, it's very hard to actually remove these buffs without like a dispel or anything. Also, her S1, super annoying. It is a single target attack that has a 40% chance to stun. If you actually have a barrier from your S3, which is pretty thick, it will be 65%. And if you really need that stun, you can soul burn it for 10 souls only to actually get a 100% chance to stun. So pretty strong opener. She pairs very well with something like a Summertime Assyria because she S2s. Summertime Assyria will put bombs on the enemy side. And then she gives an attack buff for that Summertime Assyria, and then Summertime Assyria just S3s and does a ton of damage. Also just very good as a opener because her base speed is 128, one of the fastest in the game, and allows her to actually speed contest. You just S2 and then S3, and then you are at a huge advantage because you have mitigation, you have attack buff, and you actually punish the enemy side by putting restrict and cannot buff as well. And also she's very nice if you pair her on another artifact known as Rihanna and Luciella. This is actually the artifact that I run. This artifact has a chance to grant you an extra turn at the end of your turn, and basically because Peira has an extra turn in her S2, you have 2 chances to actually proc it. So basically what you can do is S2, S3, and then S1 right after and try to stun the enemy fastest unit and just get a huge advantage from the start, and it pretty much ends up snowballing out of control. Especially because it's very annoying to deal with those extra turns because it resets the cooldown on her S2 and S3 even quicker. Now for artifact Goblet of Oath, also good on her. It's going to be effectiveness increase, and after using a non-attack skill, you will decrease the skill cooldowns of your character that's holding it, so your S2 and S3 will come up faster. Honestly, I prefer Rihanna and Luciella because if you think about it, if you use a non-attack skill, it decreases skill cooldowns, sure, but if you actually get an extra turn, that will also decrease the cooldowns of your skills. So I think this artifact, even though some people like to use it for RTA because it's more consistent, I think if you do get these procs from this artifact, it is way better. And on defense teams, you almost are always going to run her on this artifact because it just gives a ton of RNG and frustrates the enemy side. And as you guys know, if you fight a Peira or Ran on defense teams, they probably are on Rihanna and Luciella, and you probably see a proc like all the time, right? So Peira, I think, not a must-have unit, but the skin looks good enough that you might want to pull for her. But mostly for aggressive players, you really need a lot of speed to make her work, which makes her harder to build. So if you're new to the game, I personally recommend skipping her. If you do get her skin, you can just get her at a different time and the skin will still be there. But if you are new to the game, like I said, because she's hard to build and hard to use for early game players, probably not worth it. And even for mid game and late game players, she doesn't really see that much use. I think she's only really used for like aggressive speed players that like to take first turn or like to speed contest. So I think this banner can be pretty much skipped. Same with her artifact. Now for skill enhances, you definitely want to max out her S3 for that barrier strength to keep the barrier up and get more value out of escort. For your S2, you definitely want the turn cooldown. Damage doesn't really matter for her. Peira's damage is very low. And then for S1, ideally you do want this to be at +4 to get a total of 65% chance to stun when you have a barrier. Now for her stats and her sets and artifacts, this is what my Peira's at. Honestly, it's probably my best speed gear, so don't compare your Peira, whatever speed unit you're running, with mine. 317 speed honestly is not easily obtainable or attainable at all really for a lot of players. So I think all you really need for her is just speed, right? So for speed, aim for something around 290 plus, 280 plus even, and you should be fine. Anything above like 270, 280 is usable. You just want to make sure that you are guaranteed the first turn, whether it be with speed imprints or even like pairing her with like a Zeo to secure the first turn. But yeah, you want to be careful against other speed racers, right? If your Peira is not super fast like mine, then you can get outsped by Conqueriliuses, Rans, even Zeos will completely shut you down. So you do have to be careful about that. But Peira's biggest thing is you need to take the first turn with her, so you want as much speed on her as possible. Now for other stats, doesn't really matter. All you really need is effectiveness. So, you're going to see that my ring is on effectiveness here, and then, a lot of my substats are going to be effectiveness or even like health, alongside speed, of course, being the main thing. But most of your effectiveness will come from this ring, because a lot of your subs you do want to allocate into speed, and your necklace main stat you do want health percent, because it will scale the best with your escort buff. Now for your sets, it should be pretty obvious. All you really need is speed set. The secondary set, ideally you do want effectiveness or even like protection set, but the thing is, because you're going for a lot of speed, most likely you'll end up running a broken set, which is what I'm doing with this helmet and this chest piece. So you definitely just want as much speed as possible in speed set, and then just some effectiveness, and ideally maybe some health as well to make your Peira more bulky. Now for artifact, you definitely want to use Rihanna and Luciella, especially if you use her on defense teams, right? She's not super popular anymore, but she was pretty popular on Guild Wars defense a while back. Still pretty good there. But, I think this is the best artifact overall for her. There's not really any other options besides her own, which is okay, but I really do think that Rihanna and Luciella is going to be your best bet, because it's very, very good. Another option could be like Albastron, right? You can land like a defense break, which is super powerful, but for the most part, I think Rihanna and Luciella will be the main, artifact you want to run on your Peira to actually, use her very well. Like I mentioned, her counters, right? Pretty much anything of the earth elements very good against her, because they will just dodge her, right? They'll dodge her S2, they'll dodge her, S1. Remuru's pretty good against her, like very, very good. Senya's pretty good against her. I mean, like Galilius is pretty good against her, right? There's a lot of options that are earth that are good against her. Another very good unit against her would be like Zio, because he just kind of shuts her down, right? He takes the first turn and S3s her, makes her pretty useless. Also, just any speed contester in general that can actually take the first turn, you have to be wary about. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Peira, guys. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys are pulling for her. I think her skin looks amazing, one of the best skins in the game currently. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about the skin as well, and I'll see you guys next video.